panel joining me here, LBC's Iain Dale, Polly MacKenzie, former advisor to Nick Clegg, and Paul Mason, Corbyn's supporter and journalist. Very nice to see you all. Who do you think, a quick run through, who do you think won that debate? Were there winners and losers for you, Paul? And I'm going to say this now, you've been very good at not being too tribal up to this point.
There's only 5 days to go, though, so
yeah,
don't hold
I have great hopes for honesty.
Look, I think what was wrong with that debate is that at this stage in the game, we need expert people quizzing both sides. I was actually who won there was the politicians, because they weren't expertly quizzed. Neither of them was pushed to the limits of where their positions are, because the audience, I think we're coming from an emotional position, which is where many voters come from, but actually on things like nuclear, which is like tonight, this is the issue that Labour in spin doctors want to avoid. I want to hit it head on. The position is clear. The newness of, for example, no first use is incredibly new and innovative for the British nuclear military establishment, and yet nobody in the audience seemed to pick it up. So I'm concerned that the quality of democracy we're going to get at the end of this election is one where, two completely different politicians have really failed to be quizzed expertly in the way that would have helped.
It's very brave, isn't it? So the audience asked the wrong questions.
When they are quizzed expertly by expert interviewers, Corbyn supporters go on Twitter and troll them and call them Zionists for asking hard questions.
Well, obviously that is wrong, but the point I'm trying to make is that we need to know now what is the cap. It was said again and again, for example, what is the cap on how much savings you lose from the dementia tax?
Okay.
We don't know.
Well, we're not going to get that one. Polly, let me come to you. What did you feel? I mean, this was also about the warmth that an audience has for whoever's on that stage.
Yeah,
who won that?
I think Theresa May was better than she's been, which is a bit of a shift. Actually, she's had a bit of a wobble for the last 10 days, and it felt like she was back on track as good as she could be. And I think I disagree with Paul. I think you do have to have different phases. You have, your Andrew Neil's taking people to pieces on the experts, but you also do have to see if people can emote and can relate to human beings. And actually, both of them were sort of better than you would have expected on that.
I'll tell you what, politicians get found out when they're asked questions by real people. I see that every day on my radio show. It's the real voters, when they ask the questions, the politicians are sometimes like gulping goldfishes, and we saw that to an extent tonight with Jeremy Corbyn. This was an important event. It had the highest audience, I would imagine, of any interview programme so far, and I'm afraid, Paul, Jeremy Corbyn was found out tonight. Anyone watching that with his remarks on terrorism, where he could not bring himself to condemn the IRA...
He condemned them in...
No, he didn't. He used
this catch-all term. All terrorist violence in IRA.
I don't want to run...
So,
okay.
on nuclear defence, this man is not fit to run...
I don't want to run the debate or any BBC debate, but what I do want to say is, at the end of a week where we've seen extraordinary diversity of polls in a way that we haven't for, 2 years or whatever, where would you put your numbers now? If I come to you for maths, and I know you do this anyway as a hobby, but where would you put? You're going for a Tory majority still?
Yes,
of
I
what?
am. I think that Theresa May has had a bad week. Let no one deny that. But tonight she came out fighting, and I think anybody who watched that, any floating voter who watched that, will have been more impressed by Theresa May than they probably thought they would be. Now, in terms of numbers, at the start of this campaign, I predicted a Tory majority of 74. Then I went through all of the constituencies and on the basis of the high opinion poll lead, and came out with a majority of 130. I think that has rode back now. I don't think it'll be that high, but I still expect a relative Conservative landslide.
Polly, I'm about 100, you're saying then? Or
I think it could be 80 to 100.
I mean, I think Ian's probably better at the detailed numbers than me, but yeah, the Conservatives are going to win this, 50, 75, whatever it is. But what's depressing for me is neither Theresa May nor Jeremy Corbyn is particularly strong. They've both got big areas of weakness.
Stronger than Tim Farron.
Well, Nick Clegg is worried about his seat tonight, isn't that right? I mean, some of these polls and modelling has got Sheffield Hallam as a toss.
Everybody said Sheffield Hallam was going to be lost, and as it happened, it was returned with a substantial majority. So,
is it conceivable that the Lib Dems could go backwards this time?
Elections, anything is conceivable, and then people pledge to eat their hats and look like idiots or run down streets naked, and I just,
thank you.
Of course, anything is plausible.
My promise in 2010.
All I can do is believe the range of polls, and I think the range of polls point to the maximum Theresa May is going to get is 10 extra seats, I would have thought.
Seriously?
Yes, absolutely.
Seriously?
Yeah. And
I hope there's money on this
yeah.
afterwards.
Well,
Paul, do you think, are they,
No,
in
but
Corbyn
let me
HQ, but can I just ask you, are they preparing now for the possibility of a hung parliament or a win?
They're preparing for the possibility of a win. They're preparing for the possibility of a hung parliament. That's why you've seen Starmer out talking about the Northern Irish and the Welsh and the Scottish governments having a part in Brexit. You've seen the...
And fair to say they weren't at the beginning of this, right?
No, absolutely not, because you go back, I believe, the polls. The ranges from a small Tory majority through to a hung parliament, through to a minority Labour government.
Most of the polls are still 10 to 12 points ahead, aren't they?
Exactly.
No, some aren't.
I spent the whole of the 2015 election campaign preparing for a hung parliament, wishing it's going to happen, doesn't actually make it happen.
No, I'm believing the polls. But what I will say is...
You're believing the polls you want to believe. You're not believing the majority of the polls.
What I will say is, what Labour are very concerned about is the turnout. On a high turnout of young people, Labour is in a very good position.
That is a really
and you
good
have
point.
to get young people out.
Well, if
young
any of them
people
are
who
listening,
actually put their money where their mouth is.
If they don't vote Labour,
Well,
it means
it's not
£9,000 a
it's
year
not just young
on your
people's
university
turnout.
fees
Well,
from September.
He's also guaranteed that students who've already gone through university are going to have their money refunded.
Brilliant.
I mean, fantasy
Let's-
politics.
Let me ask you
Let's
something about this, because
support the young people of this country.
this feels like a personality race, doesn't it? And weirdly, they've gone like that. The more people have seen of Jeremy Corbyn, it seems, the more they've warmed, and the more they've seen Theresa May, the less they've warmed.
Well, I think you saw a turning point tonight. I genuinely
robot.
believe that you
Which way?
do.
She was an automaton.
Well, you said earlier on the Daily Politics you thought that she was unwell, which I thought was an absolutely disgraceful thing to say. I think you should apologise for it because it's out of the Trump playbook. That's what it is.
Your side is calling my leader a terrorist. I won't be apologising for
No, we haven't called him a terrorist. We've questioned his terrorist sympathies.
Where's she been all week?
Would you like to apologise for that? Would you like to apologise?
Okay.
Out of the Trump playbook, you should be.
She's terrified of debating, and it's legitimate to ask, where is she?
It's not okay
is
to
she?
question her health. You should
Where
be
is she?
ashamed of yourself.
Where is she?
Do you think any of this cuts through?
Well, yeah, some of it does. But reinforcing what we heard some Vox Pop say earlier, that they all still feel the same, even though actually the policies are incredibly divergent in this election in a way that they haven't been recently. But you still get that sense that all the politicians are kind of mediocre.
Who do you think's played dirty?
Oh, everybody.
Do you?
It's
Why
an
does that
election
matter?
campaign.
The future of the country is at stake. The other side...
So it's fine to play dirty.
The other side is actually saying that Labour and the millions of people who support it are in some way tainted by terrorism.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't,
Absolutely, because
let's
Jeremy
hear
Corbyn...
it. Let's hear it.
Jeremy Corbyn,
What you
we
are
know,
doing is
has
digging the
supported
grave
the
of
IRA.
consensus
He's a friend
politics
of
in this
Hamas.
country.
He's a friend
You
of
are digging the
Hezbollah.
grave
What
of
points do you
consensus
not get?
politics in this country. Labour supports the rule of law, anti-terror,
Really?
and the
I'm
national
so sorry.
security of
We need
this
to get to
country.
Steve
Talk to
Smith.
Diane
He's on
Abbott
his
about
bus.
that.
Thank
Talk
you
to
very
Diane
much,
Why is
all
it
of you.
picking on
Thank
Diane?
you.
What's this
she's
racism about Diane Abbott?
unfit to be
Why do you
Home
hate
Secretary.
Right.
black Home Secretary?
We need to go on.
Oh, here we
Why
go.
do you
Here we
keep
go.
doing it?
Play the
Finally.
race card.
Why do you keep
Play the
Paul,
race card.
shh. We'll come back to
Why do
Diane
you
Abbott
keep
next
playing
week. Shush.
the